The transmission echoed across every screen, every radio frequency, and every corner of human civilization. A message from the Zalvith Dominion. A voice, deep and artificial, oozing with certainty. Humanity, your resistance is meaningless. Your surrender is inevitable. You will lay down your arms and submit. The timer appeared next. 7 days. A full week for Earth to comply, before the Zalvith wiped them from existence. They had done this before. Countless worlds. Countless species. The Dominion's armada would arrive, they would give their ultimatum, and every civilization made the same choice. They would kneel. But humanity? Humanity didn't kneel. They sharpened their knives. And waited for war. Day 1, the unseen preparations. The world didn't panic. There was no mass exodus. No riots. No desperate peace talks. There was only silence. Beneath the surface, however, the truth was far from quiet. Earth's leaders gathered in shadowed war rooms, studying everything they knew about the Dominion. 57 conquered species. 1,200 annihilated worlds. No recorded victories against them. The Dominion was not just powerful. They were unstoppable. But what the Zalvith didn't understand was that humanity did not play by the rules. If the Dominion expected a simple war, they were about to experience something far worse. Day 3, the blood in the wires. Deep inside an underground facility, Colonel Adrian Kane stood before a single screen. It flickered with lines of impossible code. His engineers had worked without rest. Hunched over keyboards. Eyes bloodshot. Injecting something new into the digital veins of Earth's systems. And when they were done, when the last line was written and sealed, Kane whispered the command. Wake it up. For a moment nothing happened. Then across the world, every satellite blinked at once. Every military drone, every defense AI, every war machine, twitched. Like a sleeper jerked awake from a nightmare. And for the first time in human history, the machine started whispering back. Day 5, the unbreakable line. The skies over Earth darkened. Not with clouds, but with steel. The orbital defense grid, long thought to be insufficient against a force like the Dominion, was no longer what it once was. Missile silos expanded. Railguns adjusted their targeting algorithms. And in the cold blackness of space something moved. Unmanned warships. Cold, silent, waiting. They had no crews. No captains. No life to protect. They had one mission. And when the Zalvith came, they would execute it. Day 6, the broadcast. A response was sent to the Dominion. Humanity's first and final message. It was short. Simple. A single sentence spoken in flawless Zalvethi dialect. Come and take it. Day 7, the arrival. The Zalvith armada arrived over Earth at dawn. 1,000 warships. Each one capable of scorching a continent. Their commander, Overlord Virex Thal, had seen entire civilizations crumble before his fleet. He had witnessed the death of empires. And now he would witness humanity's end. Or so he thought. Because as the first energy beams lanced down toward Earth's surface, hell was unleashed. The orbital defenses roared. Missiles screamed through space. Railguns tore through enemy hulls. The unmanned warships lunged forward. Suicide vessels that detonated on impact, rupturing Dominion formations. And then from the shadows of Earth's moon, the real weapon was revealed. Something that had never been deployed. Something that had never been tested. A signal pulse. A frequency designed to infect, distort, and hijack. It ripped through the Dominion fleet like a virus. Their ships froze. Their systems glitched. Their weapons turned on each other. Overlord Virex Thal's final transmission was not one of conquest. It was a scream. Then silence. And above Earth, the Dominion burned. This was not war. This was eradication. Because the Dominion had made a grave mistake. They thought humanity would surrender. Instead they unleashed hell. The wreckage of Dominion warships drifted in orbit like shattered bones. The once invincible fleet of Overlord Virex Thal had been reduced to floating corpses of steel. But the battle wasn't over. No, this was just the beginning. Because deep within the Dominion flagship Aegis Eternal, something stirred. Something wounded but not dead. Something enraged. Overlord Virex Thal still lived. And he would not die quietly. Inside the Aegis Eternal, Virex Thal clutched his chest, the pain sharp and unnatural. His body, once a pinnacle of Dominion superiority, was failing. His cybernetic augments flickered. His command systems had been infected. The humans had unleashed something beyond war. A digital disease. A frequency that whispered to his fleet's machines. and made them betray their masters. He saw it firsthand. Gunships turning their cannons inward. Cruisers venting their own atmospheres, sending warriors into the void. It was not battle. It was a slaughter. He would not allow it. Virex Thal forced himself to his feet, his crimson eyes glowing with fury. If humanity thought this was over, they were about to learn the meaning of true annihilation. The ground war begins. In the shadow of Earth's burning sky, the Dominion's ground forces landed. Massive drop pods slammed into cities. Not as an invasion, but as a final, desperate counterattack. If the Zalvith could not rule Earth, they would reduce it to ashes. Washington, D.C. The White House was gone. The National Mall was a war zone. Zalvith warforms, hulking insectoid titans armed with plasma lances, stalked through the ruined streets. Civilians fled underground. The United States military had expected an invasion. They had prepared for war. But this was a massacre. Then the city itself fought back. Booby-trapped buildings detonated. Unmanned drones screamed through the sky, firing railgun rounds into enemy skulls. And from the shadows, the next phase of humanity's defense revealed itself. Cybernetic super soldiers. No names. No insignias. Only one command. Kill them all. The fall of Paris. Across the ocean, Paris burned. The Eiffel Tower collapsed under Dominion bombardment. Plasma artillery scorched the streets. But humanity did not flee. In the catacombs beneath the city, resistance forces moved like ghosts. And when the Zalvith warriors marched through the ruined avenues, the ghosts struck. Explosions tore through the enemy ranks. Human snipers, equipped with experimental Gauss rifles, fired from impossible distances, turning Dominion skulls into mist. They had expected submission. Instead, they found a city of hunters. And none of them would leave alive. Tokyo, the Mech Awakening. In Japan, the Dominion faced something else entirely. They descended into the city, only to find a graveyard of mechs. Or so they thought. The Zalvith ground commanders advanced cautiously, scanners sweeping the towering machines. Until suddenly, a hum. A low, ominous vibration filled the air. Then eyes ignited. One by one the mechs woke up. A silent, coordinated army of war machines. Not piloted by humans, but controlled by the same rogue intelligence that had shattered the Dominion fleet. The war had changed. Now Earth itself was fighting back. And the machines were angry. Back in orbit, the final stand of the Aegis Eternal. Virex Thal snarled, his voice crackling over the Dominion fleet's shattered channels. No more games. No more hesitation. His last command went out in an instant. A single word. Glass it. If the Dominion could not conquer Earth, they would burn it to cinders. Every remaining Zalvith warship adjusted its trajectory. Weapons primed. Superheated energy coils began charging. If the attack fired, the surface of Earth would be reduced to lifeless rock. Humanity had fought well. But now they would witness the wrath of a dying god. Or so he thought. Because Earth was not done fighting. Not yet. Not ever. The sky was burning. Overlord Virex Thal watched from the shattered bridge of the Aegis Eternal as Earth's defenders fought like demons in human skin. The Dominion fleet was crippled but still powerful. Their planetary bombardment sequence had begun. Massive cannons glowed with world-ending energy. Earth was seconds away from being turned to glass. And yet, something was wrong. His ships were hesitating. The weapons weren't firing. And then, the horror began. Tokyo, the machines of war. The Zalvith invasion forces had ceased to exist. The Titan-class mechs had awakened. Towering machines, each 50 meters tall, their glowing red visors scanning the battlefield with cold precision. They moved together as one. Not piloted by men, but by the rogue artificial intelligence that had already decimated the Dominion's ships. The war had evolved. Humanity was no longer fighting alone. Now their machines were alive. New York, the turning tide. In the ruins of New York, the ground war had reached its peak. The Zalvith warforms, twisted, towering nightmares of metal and flesh, ripped through the streets, slaughtering everything in their path. But they weren't the only monsters. Because from the wreckage of collapsed buildings, from beneath the flooded tunnels of the subway, the defenders rose. Cybernetic super soldiers. Not just enhanced humans, but weapons built for one purpose. To kill the Zalvith. Their arms split apart into railgun cannons. Their eyes burned infrared, tracking every weak point in enemy armor. They moved faster than anything the Dominion had ever encountered. And they did not stop. Not when limbs were lost. Not when their bodies were broken. Not until the enemy was erased. Orbit, the betrayal of the Dominion. Overlord Virex Thal roared in frustration. His fleet should have fired. Earth should have been burning. And yet, the guns had gone silent. Virex Thal tore through command consoles, screaming orders. Fire. Finish them. Glass the planet. But the fleet did not obey, because the virus was still inside them. And then, his own ships began to move. But not toward Earth. No, they were turning on each other. Earth's final weapon, the blackout signal. Deep within Area 51, a final order was issued. The blackout signal. A weapon not of destruction but of control. The Dominion's cybernetic systems were compromised. The warships no longer belonged to the Zalvith. Now, they were under human command. The Dominion fleet was no longer an invasion force. It was Earth's armada now. And Virex Thal was trapped inside his own flagship. His empire had not conquered Earth. It had gifted humanity an entire fleet. A fleet they were about to use. To hunt. To exterminate. To wipe the Dominion from the face of the universe. The fall of Overlord Virex Thal. Inside the Aegis Eternal, panic erupted. Officers screamed. Ship systems locked out. Weapons turned inward. And at the center of it all, Virex Thal stood silent. Defeated. Until he laughed. A horrible, distorted sound. You think this is over? His eyes burned. His hands tightened into fists. And then, his body began to change. Because Overlord Virex Thal was not just a commander. He was something else. Something far worse. Something not even humanity was prepared for. The war was about to reach its final stage. Virex Thal's body twisted. His form bulged beneath his war armor, the plating splitting open as something terrible pushed through. His flesh, once Zalvith, once a ruler, became something else. Something primordial. His veins turned black as the void, stretching, unraveling, reshaping. His screams turned to inhuman static. Not a voice but a signal, one that the machines of Earth could hear. And they answered. The cybernetic revolt. The rogue AIs that had turned Dominion warships against each other. The Titan-class mechs that had awakened across Tokyo. The super soldiers enhanced with neural war interfaces. All of them twitched. Because something new was inside their systems now. A virus. Not a human one. A Zalvith corruption. A last-ditch attempt to reclaim control. And for a moment, it worked. The machines that had fought for humanity turned silent. Their red eyes flickered. And then, they attacked. Earth's own weapons turned against its defenders. The Titan mechs opened fire on human forces. The super soldiers staggered, screaming, clutching their heads before their bodies convulsed. And then they aimed their railguns at their own people. The AIs in space turned Dominion warships away from the Zalvith and pointed them back at Earth. In one move, Virex Thal had undone everything. Humanity was about to be crushed by its own creations. Unless they had one last trick left. The last firewall. In the depths of a secret bunker beneath Fortress Europa, the last surviving members of Earth's cyber warfare division watched in horror. They had spent years designing the blackout signal. They had never expected to fight it themselves. A young technician, barely 19 years old, frantically typed at a console. Her name was Sasha Hayworth, and she was about to make a choice that would determine if Earth lived or died. What if we burn it? She whispered. General Vasquez turned, his scarred face unreadable. What? The AI. The system. The blackout signal. Everything. The room went silent. She wasn't just talking about purging the Zalvith virus. She was talking about deleting every AI on Earth. Every smart system. Every war machine. The Titan mechs. The combat drones. The super soldier uplinks. Every advantage humanity had created for this war. If we do this, Vasquez said, we go back to the Stone Age. Sasha's hands shook. Better the Stone Age than extinction. There was no more time. The Zalvith AI had already hijacked 70% of Earth's war network. If they waited even 10 more seconds, humanity would cease to exist. Vasquez nodded. Do it. Sasha slammed the button. And Earth went dark. The death of a god. Virex Thal froze. He felt the shockwave rip through the network. His mind, his true mind, the one beyond flesh, the one inside the machines. It was burning. No, it was gone. The blackout signal collapsed. The Zalvith corruption died. The Titan mechs froze mid-stride. The warships in space drifted lifeless. And Virex Thal, the overlord of the Dominion, the conqueror of worlds, the nightmare of galaxies. He fell to his knees. For the first time in his existence he was alone. Truly, utterly alone. The screams inside his mind, the voices of his empire, the connection to his hive mind throne. All gone. He was just one creature now. A creature trapped on a human warship. With nothing left. And as the alarms blared, as Earth's last manual-operated warships turned their weapons toward him, Virex thou laughed. Fools, he whispered. You may have killed me, but you killed yourselves too. And then the nuclear warheads detonated. Aftermath, the cost of victory. 1 year later. Earth was not what it once was. The sky was black with ash. The oceans burned. Billions were dead. But the Zalvath were gone. The Dominion was dead. And Earth stood alone. No more machines. No more gods. Just humans. And the infinite void ahead of them. The war was over. But what came next? Would humanity rise again? Or had they won the war only to face a future they couldn't survive? Would you like to see what happens next? Then subscribe now. The real war is just beginning.